Hello, I'm Ed Rabyd, otherwise known as the Rabyd Atheist, a former pastor turned atheist, now a compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. You're free to like or dislike the video, so feel free to hit those buttons. Feel free to comment below, and I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel and hit your notification bell for more content as it is released. You're also free to share my videos as much as you like, help me grow the channel, but also the purpose of this channel is educational. In particular in dealing with deconversion issues, Bible and theology issues related to deconversion, as well as atheist issues in relationship to Bible and theology. Kind of using my former expertise as a former minister and Bible scholar in a little bit different way that probably my alma maters would not approve of, but there it is. Today is the next week, I think it's week 35 video. 35 weeks of the channel. It's hard to believe, but it's growing all the time, and I appreciate some of the new subscribers in this last week. Thank you. This is a weekend Friday video, so I'm going to be addressing comments that have been leveled in the past week. And in fact, on my week 34 video, Vinarak had a comment about this when I addressed a certain commenter about various other things, and he says, I don't think the commenter's heart is in the right place. Such statements are presumptuous and reek of Christian privilege. They are microaggressions, uttered without regard for you and your experiences, therefore disrespectful and thoughtless. Deconversion is difficult and long process, evincing just how pathologically a Christian narrative can be. Keep up the good fight, Ed. P.S. What happened to Don Corleone poster? Well, I'll address that last question. He's still there. I had to take him down because I wanted to get my Viking Raven picture in there right over my head, and then I moved Don Corleone, Vito Corleone over. Just for the record, I'm a big Godfather fan. It's one of the movies I can watch and just not get tired of it. I have to literally take it off. I really enjoy that movie. When you consider when that movie was made and how authentic in many respects it was, there was some, of course, there's always some stuff that they do for theater purposes. And given all the Oscar performances that that movie had, it's just a wonderful movie to me. And I always like it. Some of the other posters in the background, the Nine Noble Virtues. People ask me what kind of atheist I am. I usually respond, I'm a pagan atheist. I follow the Nine Noble Virtues of what is commonly more called Odinism. I would call it Asathru. But I made a decision early in my atheism, and once I had left my church, that I wanted to have a code to live by. And so I wanted a list of virtues that resonated with me as a person. And so there's the Nine Noble Virtues of Asathru, courage, discipline, fidelity, that sort of thing. And I try to work on that. In fact, that's what my blog, The Gray Wayfarer, is pretty much all about. As far as the rest of the comment, my issue with some commenters is I agree with you. I don't think their hearts are in the right place. I think a lot of Christians don't know what to do with me because I am a long-term pastor and a long-term Christian, and now I'm suddenly an atheist. And their whole thing is this is a spiritual battle, like we got to beat the devil. And that's not really having your heart in the right place if you really want to convert an atheist, because an atheist doesn't believe in any shit. Okay, I don't. Okay, I have a lot of knowledge of the Bible and theology because of past experience that's still up in this cranium. So it's there, and I know it, but I consider it useless in many respects because it doesn't really help me live a better life anymore. And I'm not a Christian. I don't go to church. So it's kind of, if you're going to approach me, you're not approaching an atheist who doesn't have knowledge of the Bible or knowledge of theology or knowledge of what people think. And if you truly believe your viewpoint is correct and you wanted to reach out to me, there's a couple of verses of scripture I'd gladly give to you. Use wisdom when dealing with unbelievers. Do it by your love. And I'm going to tell you right now, if somebody loves me, I know it. Okay, I'm very empathic about that, even with comments sometimes. And so, my biggest problem was some of the commenters, and I did address the one commenter, they didn't show up as spam, and I'm going to talk about my new rules at the end of this video. But it was just a lot of these comments from Christians I address, and I appreciate what you're saying because I think you're correct. This country has been Christian so long that Christians often interpret when things are becoming more level, where other religions can speak or the atheists can speak, as somehow them being persecuted. And really, they're just losing their privileges. And they don't like that. And that's kind of one of the things that deals with that. So, yeah, deconversion is a difficult and long process. And I've been going on through it, God, it's 5 years now, maybe 6. It's difficult to say. I mean, I had my aha moment where I'm sitting there after preaching a sermon on sin, and Dan Barker's quote is running through my head of sin is a man-made concept. The Christianity solves a problem of its own making, and it's completely made up. It's the ultimate snake oil salesman is basically what Dan Barker was saying. And I concluded that he was right, that I had no empirical evidence that sin existed. If the Bible didn't say so, it truly is for the Bible told me so, because it's the only thing that really says that sin exists. If you look at the world around you, if you look at the natural world, there's nothing to tell you that sin exists. It'll tell you suffering exists. It'll tell you that people do bad things to each other. But it doesn't really tell you that sin, disobedience to the will of God, exists. You wouldn't have that concept if you didn't have the Bible, and you would probably have never thought that that was a real thing if some preacher or some family member hadn't told you that, or some person that witnessed to you. So, yeah, I think a person that wants to reach me is going to have to be very empathic about my experiences, because that's the way to get in. That's the way to get me to listen completely. And I think people that come in here and spam comments and engage in all kinds of stuff, I don't know how Matt Dillahunty does it. He has a lot of patience sometimes, but I have also seen him cut people off and say, man, if you're just going to yell at me, and I'm kind of that way. I'll put up with stuff to a certain point, but it's my channel. So at the end of the day, I can shut people down. So yeah, that's kind of where I've been. Freebird of Reason. I certainly, and this is from also from last week's Friday video. It's certainly interesting to see in some comments the passion I left behind. I can see the shackles in these comments. I say this respectfully. Thank you for talking through the comments, taking the time to share. I was also at my lowest while in Christianity, on my knees crying for help and depression due to trying to walk the pure walk, trying to follow the Bible to the letter. Don't eat pork. Do I eat pork? Don't I eat pork? Am I right with God? Do I take this communion this week or don't? Should I stop my children from watching cartoons? This is constantly in my head. I was so thin that my doctor was worried about my weight loss. I remember the birth of one of my children. I was so depressed over it overshadowed the beautiful event. She has children in front of her now. It's all so long in the past. Plus, all this upsetting of my friends and family, telling them the gospel. I regret this disrespectful action. I know I couldn't help it at the time. It is difficult to put in the words the nightmare I was in at times. I did have good times, but the bottom line is religion made me ill, and no help came. I helped myself and got out. Now life is fantastic. I just deal with recovering from religion, but it has become very interesting. I seem to enjoy what I didn't see before. I'm fully convinced through years the reason religion can be so unhealthy. Christianity made me an atheist. I had my mother's sweet belief before I became born-again Christian. This was through the fear gospel. Apologies for going on. It's nice to share, and it was a lonely deconversion back then. Keep smiling and have a great day. Don't apologize for sharing on this channel. It's not just me that needs to see those comments, as I think, Vinny Rack also commented on your comment. I'll leave that comment alone because that's between the two of you. But the idea is that sometimes we need to share what we've been through, because I think a lot of people think that Christianity just makes everything roses and sunshine, and I don't think that that's true. I think it does quite the opposite, and that's kind of where the idea for this channel came from. Let's see, Owen Cutie. Delight made a response video, and I commented at the time that I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I'm going to tell you what I did with it. I haven't watched it. I'm going to straight up tell you I'm just not going to bother. The reason is I am just at this point in my life with my deconversion, not really interested in hearing all the same old tired arguments from the Christian side of the aisle. I made a video when I first started this channel that involved a challenge to Christians to give me something new, because I had already poured, 6 years into studying all the arguments for the existence of God and all the atheist counters. And I was, after all was said and done, I was completely unconvinced that apologetics was worth a crap. So, and I went out to become a better apologist, and in the process became an atheist. So that's kind of where I am. So, don't give me the same tired stuff. And I don't know what's on this video. I don't care. Maybe one of you has watched it and you think there's something on there that I should address. Fine. Tell me what you think I should address. Maybe I'll address your comment instead. But I just don't want to get into the emotional back and forth of an argument right now that I just can't afford to spend emotional energy on. One of the things that I've learned is when I was a pastor, okay, you need to understand the context, I guess. When I was a pastor, there's this constant demand for your attention. There's a constant demand for you to care, be emotional. One day I would do somebody's birth. They give birth to their kid, and I come and it's a joyful occasion. The next day I'm holding somebody's hand dying. The next day after that I'm doing a wedding, and the next day after that I'm doing a funeral. I'm not saying that, but it's an emotional roller coaster ride to be a minister, okay? And it's why I said, I think in my video a couple days ago, that this is one thing I don't really enjoy doing anymore. I don't know if I said that to you or somebody else, but one of the things I would really have a hard time with now is holding the hands of the dying, because I've seen so many people die that were such powerful warriors for Christ, quote unquote. And you know what? They have the same fear of death in their face. You're about to meet Jesus. Why would you be afraid? And I don't care how many people said, I'm going to, when they get to the end, the reality dawns on them that this better be right or wrong, because otherwise this is it. Okay. And, how have you spent your life up to this point? And so, having dealt with all those emotions, I'm very careful in what I spend my emotional energy on. I'm getting too old to be screwing around with people that are basically not going to listen. So I just, the more I looked at the nature of Sunday Night's comments, the more he spammed. I just, when his thing switched from going to my regular comment folder, all of a sudden his comments are dropping in my spam folder. I didn't do any of that. I didn't mark him as spam. I don't know of anybody else that marked him as spam. So I'm assuming that somebody marked him as spam and got tired of his ass. And that's just the way it is. And I'm, it's why I've made a decision not to address any commenter that drops into the spam file. They may be legit and maybe just people are pissed at them. But if you drop into my spam file, I'm going to kind of conclude that maybe you're just a pain in the ass. There people have to do that. I mean, maybe YouTube's algorithm did it. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is having good, fruitful discussions where you're living to. Now, that said, there were 2 Sunny Delight comments that I've gotten from other people this week in person in relationship to this. Number one is, what did I mean by when I said that the person that makes the claim that something is all is they're the ones that have to prove that. All right, I'm going to give an analogy, and it's not perfect. I want to just say that up front. But let's say we have a bag of marbles, and I make a claim about the bag of marbles, and you make a claim about the bag of marbles. You make the claim that all the marbles in that bag are red. Okay, I make the claim, no, there's probably a couple blue marbles in there. Okay, now who has the more difficult claim to prove at that point? Now we're going to start reaching into the bag and pulling out marbles, and there's only red and blue marbles in it. Okay, that's the only 2 possibilities. Okay. Whose claim is more difficult to prove? Well, let's say there's 10 marbles in the bag. In order for the first claim, all the marbles are red, to be proven, that person has to pull out all the marbles and they all have to be red. For me, who simply says there's blue marbles in the bag, I just have to pull out 2 blue marbles, because then I have 2 blue marbles. The rest of them can be red, but that's the way it is. Now let's take that to the claim that says all of the supposed contradictions in the Bible can be rationally proven. Is very similar to the claim that all the marbles in the bag are red. Okay. You literally have to, every time somebody brings up a contradiction or whatever in the scripture, you have to prove that it's not. Okay. You're the one making the claim. For me, all I have to do is show a couple contradictions in the Bible where I say the Bible has contradictions, plural, and I prove my point. The harder claim to prove is the one that says there's no contradictions. And as I said before, it really doesn't deal with anything. Another thing that Sunny Delight directly said was that faith isn't based on things that aren't seen. It's based on things that we see. I do hope that he realizes that he's contradicting a verse of scripture. So I guess he thinks there is a contradiction in the Bible. The contradiction existing between his definition of faith and the Bible's definition of faith in Hebrews 11:1, which basically says that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And so you're saying something that's contradictory to the Bible. So apparently the Bible contradicts what really faith is all about. Thanks. You give me another contradiction. Bible contradiction number 3, Bible cosmology versus the real world. What I may see as sinfulness, another man or woman may see differently. This free bird of reason. For some people, the upbringing denotes right and wrong. There's right and wrong difference from country to country. What is sin? One is normal in another. Being free from the shackles of the mind machine is truly be free from sin. There's no such thing as sin. It's religious trappings. If 2 young humans, a boy and a girl, were left to their natural, they would be with a child at such a young age, so as we would humans put laws in place to protect young children, rightly so. If the law is in place and we break it, does it become a sin? We are supposed to be sinful in nature, but we protect what is supposed to be designed. As far as finding tuning goes, on our planet, people die from heat and thirst because the sun is scorching the land. Maybe this could have had some adjustment to be better. Some places on Earth are just right. Millions have died from flooding. I'm not talking about the biblical flood. Not fine-tuning enough, or am I missing a point? Take a look around. The fine-tuning virus is killing people. Has the Bible given us a virus and giving man a cure? Well, when there's a cure, is God praised? It's a messed up story. Needs fine-tuning. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to continue to go on there for your breed of reason. I will agree with you on all those comments. I think sin is made up. Whenever people talk about sin from the Bible, culturally, they put it through their cultural filter. So what's one sin in one country is a sin in a different one. I knew from my own denomination, from the Assemblies of God, in the United States wouldn't drink alcohol. They had the teetotalers. They were rooted in the temperance movement when they were first formed. And so that came out in their behavioral standards that nobody could drink any alcohol of any kind. Okay. Well, then you go to Germany and you run into the Assemblies of God Germany. And they don't understand why we're so immoral to drink coffee. And they will down a pint of beer while they're telling you to do that. What happens with almost every denomination, sect, whatever, they look at what's defined as sin and they'll put it through their cultural filter, depending on where they are in the world. So what really is the standard of the Bible? Don't know. It just comes out as whatever people want it to be. I think your analogy about sex is pretty good, because if we did leave a female and a male on an island somewhere, old enough where they could take care of themselves, they would eventually hit puberty. And eventually they would start to have sex. And they would produce a child very quickly. Okay, it would happen. we put laws in place to protect ourselves, protect children from that in society. But it would happen on a deserted island. That's natural, okay? That's what the universe is supposed to naturally be. And yet we have these laws that defy the natural order that God has set up. See how this begins to become a sticky web for the Christian, I think, is because on the one hand, you want to say these biological urges are designed by God, but then you want to put laws in place to have people deny those fine-tuned biological urges. I get your point very much, and it's a good one. Fine-tuning and flooding, yeah, I mean, I think the whole argument against fine-tuning, I would say a good chunk of it is, then why is everything so screwed up? There's all kinds of fine-tuning bullshit out there, and that's just kind of the way it is. I just don't know. I agree with you there. Rabid Ramblings, religion is depressing. And I had some good comments on this one. Freebird of Reason. Thanks for sharing. Very refreshing and true. I really do understand about depression and anxiety. So let's remember that although we got rid of religion and lost the eternal life belief, we now have the truth. We have our own minds back. We are who we are. So from an honest, grounded, in reality human, I send a strong, virtual, friendly hug from the UK. Great video as always, interesting and helpful. Thank you for the virtual hug. I know we're not allowed because of COVID, it can be dangerous. Don't want to spread germs from the UK to the United States and back. But yeah, I think you make probably a very good, valid personal point, is that we don't have all that stuff. But I think the reason why some of the vestiges of that stuff remains is because, once again, deconversion is a long process. Vinnie Rack said it well. It's a long process. And it takes a while to get over habits and mental ways of thinking and that sort of thing. There's a reason why I have a therapist. And I'm grateful for her every time we talk because, we talk about these issues and she helps me work my way through it. And she's worked her way through it herself. So sometimes I help her, I think. So, yeah, you make a very valid point. Vinnie Rack. Bipolar religion. At the one end of the spectrum, the adherent suffers from an inferiority. At the other end, the adherent suffers from delusions of grandeur, including misconceptions of priest persecution. Along that spectrum reside all manner of rationalizations that can lead to other issues. As you said, this tension manifests itself in various ways, depression being one. And somewhere along the way, we must lose the ability to think critically, with the continuing application of critical thought being the only sure way to escape its grasp. Thank you for the honest video. You're welcome. I do think that this whole idea of why religion is depressing. On one hand, you're a no good, rotten sinner, sinner in the hands of an angry God, just hanging and dangling over hell. And on the other hand, as they teach in Sunday school to little kids, you're a king's kid, and you're going to inherit the throne. And if you stick with the path, you're going to have all this stuff. You're going to have eternal life, and you're going to sit on the throne of God. And on the flip side, it's like, but you're a no good, miserable, rotten sinner, and the only way you get all this stuff is grace. But we want you to do all these behaviors, but not to get this. The logical inconsistency. Religion is very bipolar. And I think it's interesting to me, now that I think about it, how many bipolar people were in church when I was pastoring. I'm not saying that it's a majority of people, but it is interesting that bipolar people seem to gravitate toward religion. Maybe it's because it deals with both aspects of their bipolarism. Maybe that's just something that they're comfortable with. Thoroughly enjoyed today's video. Good points. This is from Sweaters in Harmony, one of my favorite names of my subscribers around here, Sweaters in Harmony. Good points. As a deconverted agnostic and licensed mental health counselor, you're exactly right. So much of depression, in my opinion, comes from internalized beliefs about ourselves and the world. I'm so glad that you are seeing improvement after removing yourself from the world of religion. Looking forward to the next video. Well, thank you. Thanks for kind of giving your opinion. I know that you're being guarded about that. I would really like to see the effects, somebody do a study where we could actually document the effects of religion on people's psyche, so as to see how it actually affects people, positive or negative. I think that's one of the things that we really need to look at, because I think this really causes a lot of problems for a lot of people. I think there's a reason why depression is there and anxiety isn't there. And, people that already have depressive and anxiety issues suddenly get thrown into religion where it says you're no good, right, sinner, but, we have this wonderful plan for your life. And, depending on what mood you're in, you can find some message in God and religion to reinforce some bad mental condition. And I think that's kind of something that does need to be looked at. All right, that's it for the comments for this week. I do want to reiterate some things, though, because I haven't really ended with the rules that much in the last few videos, but I do want to state that some of them have been changed just a bit due to recent events. Number one, as usual, do not engage in ad hominem name-calling attacks on people. You're free to comment below, but if you start name-calling, I may block you. I may get rid of you. I'll warn you. Don't do that. Number two, if you're going to say that somebody's comment is a bad comment, you're going to say it's a straw man or circular reasoning, you need to demonstrate that. Make sure you do that. And lastly, if your comments start showing up in the spam folder, I'm going to mark you as spam too and block you. Okay, I don't have that kind of time to deal with that stuff. So I'm going to trust YouTube on that particular issue to give me some feedback. So, keep it clean, keep going, folks. And I appreciate the good comments. You guys have had some great comments this week, and I appreciate that. Thank you. And hopefully, if you're out there still in believing land, I can convince you to be a rabid atheist like myself. In the meantime, this is Rabyd, also known as the Rabid Atheist, signing off and wishing you a good day.